Oh, it's been a while. Been quite a while. Got a lot of new stuff. Anyway, welcome back everybody to Ryan Bowman, aka Limoto Tomato. And we got a bit of a different video going on today, so I wanted to do a weird talk show, talk about a few things that happened in between, but I'm gonna save that for later. And beside, I plan on also doing singular videos as well for other topics, because this topic today, and then I also want to talk about another topic as well about the Guilty Gear Strive betas that happened this weekend, so I want to definitely talk about that, give my overall opinions, because I was able to play that the second time, so... And other than that, I really don't have any other announcements. I kinda, I'm just coming back after my theater performance for college, and also, taking some time off to relax, get myself prepared for the summer, finish up college, so, you all are gonna be getting more of this, and you're probably gonna see more of my face. Yeah. I was actually lucky to get this webcam yesterday, so it's been a pain. Oh, trust me, I spent like an hour just before recording just to, get this working and properly without, messing up my audio, which I will not be entirely shocked if it does that with this video. But anyway, so yeah. Otherwise, I know I've beaten the dead horse that has become a skeleton at this point for ever since I started this channel, ever since I started, the Limoto Weird Talk shows, but I still plan to do the 13 favorite movies that I love the most out of all movies. I plan to do that. Originally, I wanted to do that on script, just like this video, but I did not have the time or motivation to write one, so I'm just gonna go off the top of my head like I normally do. You all know how this goes at this point. I'm no kind of script person, unless you put me in theater. Or, it's like an audiobook, which I also plan to do that as well. But anyway, can I think of anything else? No, I cannot, certainly, so... But yeah, like I said, webcam, I'm hoping to do this more often. I do also have another event coming up, which I might use this camera for as well, or webcam, whatever you call it. But, yeah. So, without further ado, let's get on to the topic of today. So... all I just want to talk about today is the Terminator, and most importantly, the first 3 movies of the franchise, because in between the time I was taking time off from work, doing the college theater performance, and also finishing up college for the year, I was reluctant enough to find the time to watch the original Terminator trilogy. Why? I don't know, I just felt like it, It was at the time everybody has just gone to go see the new Mortal Kombat, and I'm like, it looks cool, I might see it. And then I proceeded never to go see it for some odd reason, so I'm just like, you know what sounds good? Let's just do Terminator, let's watch the Terminator. And I did, and to be honest, it is a very, very interesting trilogy with a lot of ups and downs, and honestly has probably gave me a love for a brand new movie that I thought I never would love, but I do now, so... Anyway, and as a quick reference, I've never watched the Terminator films. I've never watched a single one. Not the original ones, not the early or late 2000 ones like Salvation or Genesis or whatever it was called. And I did not see Dark Fate, but after watching this trilogy, I might go and watch that. But that also means I might watch Salvation as well. Because let me be honest, a good chunk of growing up when I was 9 or 10, was just nothing but hearing about Terminator Salvation. That movie was marketed the hell out of it. But anyway, that's for another time. That's for when I actually watch Salvation, and maybe the modern trilogy of Terminator. No, we're here for the OG. We're here for the original. So anyway, let's get on with that. Oh, and I should also mention, the only other time I really cared for Terminator was when it came out to Mortal Kombat 11, and let's be real, it was a cool inclusion for him to be in Mortal Kombat. It made sense, because, Robocop's in there, Predator and Alien were in the last game. So, I have some respect, and I also like Arnold Schwarzenegger as an actor, but I never truly watched any of his performances, so... This was kind of a first time, this was a trilogy that, he was basically the same character, but he was just given these weird changes in between. But anyway, let's just jump on in with Terminator 1. So, this was the first one I watched because I did not feel like jumping to Terminator 2 because I know a lot of people absolutely loves Judgment Day. But I was that person that I did not know what I was getting myself into with, this trilogy. So I watched the first movie, and I admit, I like it far better as a horror movie than being more of a sci-fi movie. Now, granted, it goes a lot more into action and sci-fi later on, but it's like at least a good half of it, and maybe I would say even majority of the movie is definitely it's got that horror vibe to it. It's got that bit of a slow pace, but it picks up more than like a horror movie does, and I kind of like that. I really, really do. Now, to talk about the Terminator himself, which I'm also going to reference him as the T-101, let me admit, going into this movie and watching the first 5 minutes, I did not expect to see Arnold Schlong shown in my face. Like, it was shrouded a little bit in darkness, but you could, you can go see this movie for yourself, all you, thirsty fans for Arnold, but it's like, oh my god, dude. Ooh. That was when he was 36, by the way. He was young back then in 1984 when this movie came out, and it's just like, ooh, James Cameron just wanted to show the world Arnold Schlong at that point. So, my impressions were already right out the window with that scene alone. But anyway, I would think the build-up of the movie, getting to know Sarah Connor, getting to know, well, I guess not really getting to know Kyle Reese, because it's Kyle Reese wasn't... He became important immediately as soon as he came on board, but it's he was the one that basically started the second act of the movie for me, because, he made that first shot, he started protecting Sarah, and it's he's got a role. Now, to talk about the T-101, going back to him for a bit of a time, I admit, I like that he was just full villain. It was just a full-blown killing machine, and it really suited quite well, because it's not often that you get such a cold stone cyborg. A cyborg that's just going around killing women of the same name, because that woman of name, Sarah Connor, is the bearer of the future. Her baby is the future, basically. And he's sent back in time to kill her before that baby's ever born. Sorry, hold on. No, excuse me. And it's it's just this non-stop goal of it's the one goal that I think is quite nice. It's just the Terminator is just there to kill Sarah Connor. Anybody that gets in his way, well, they're good as dead. Or literally, I love that, there are some times late into the movie where it's just he's finding ways to communicate with people. And I just remember he was just stuck in his room, and the janitor's is there a dead cat in there? And he just had a list of comebackers to say, and he's just fuck you, asshole. That was great, honestly. That was a fun moment for me. And also, I will admit, and I know this is gonna come off very, very wrong, but it's not often that you see a one-man army go up against an entire police force of 30 officers all at once. And these officers are packing M16s and shotguns alike, and it's the Terminator is just in there just to find Sarah Connor. Those police officers could have easily avoided him, but nah. They didn't know what they were getting into, so they went all out. And again, I know that sounds wrong, but it's it was a cool scene. It's a cool action scene. That fits quite well. And also, I want to give credit for... what is it? The car chase scenes. The car chase scenes throughout this movie are kind of the best that I've seen throughout this trilogy. Why? Because I get more of an adrenaline. I get more of an adrenaline fear with these chase scenes compared to the rest of the chase scenes in the rest of the movies. Because I feel it's a race to the death. It's just trying to get away from imminent death. And I do like that, honestly. The first chase scene with Kyle Reese, telling Sarah Connor, hey, I'm from the future, and I'm going to protect you, and this is a Terminator, he's a cyborg. And the Terminator is just chasing after them in a police car. And it's just it's so and especially in the parking lot where it's they have to start running off and the Terminator's right behind them. And it's just this horror-like. It's horror-like in a sense. Where it's like, it's a man chasing this woman because of reasons. Why? Because she is the reason why the future is as it is. Skynet wanted her dead because she's the one that gave birth to the man that gave mankind a fighting chance in 2029, and that man was John Connor. And I also do like at the end of the movie where Sarah finally, she finally has some guts, and she's like trying to pull Reese up to get away from the Terminator, and she's like, "On your feet, soldier, move!" That scene was pretty great. I'm like, ooh, now I like to see where this goes. And then the line just at the end where she's like, "You've been terminated, fucker!" And just like smashes the Terminator in that compressor machine. Really, really cool stuff. Really, really cool. Sarah Connor, I feel like, definitely the second best thing of this film. Well, maybe third best thing, because again, I like the car chase scenes more than anything else, outside of the Terminator. And this is where I get into my least favorite point of the movie, which is Kyle Reese. Don't get me wrong, he's not a terrible character, but for me, watching it 2 times in a row, I felt like he was just more of an exposition dump guardian than anything else. Like, there were scenes where I feel like it felt weird with him. Like, the love scene with him and Sarah at the near end, it's like, why? Why did this happen? Because it also doesn't make sense with another scene where he talks about that he knows John Connor in the future, yet he's the one that gives birth to him. Like, that part I did not understand, and that's probably going to require me to watch it again, but it's like, I like John for like the first half. He was just a mysterious enigma. You didn't know who he was. He didn't speak any lines. He was running away from the cops, and he was just trying to find Sarah Connor. I like that. And I like that he did have a spine at least. He basically put his life on the line for Sarah. And the fact that he gave her a fighting chance as well, to give her that strength and confidence to, like, help the future, really, really good. But again, it's like, he felt more of just a soapbox expositioner than anything else for me, so he was kind of weak in my mind. I was sad that he died, though. I was very sad that he did die at the end, but it's like, it was kind of necessary because I couldn't imagine Terminator 2 being better with him, so yeah. What else do I gotta say about Terminator 1? Nothing else, so I guess the other thing I just want to say is that for a first movie that went into a trilogy of movies, let me say, Terminator 1, even though it's probably not aged as well because it was back in the 1980s, I will admit, it set up a lot of stuff more than what people could realize. Like, it set up the world, it set up a future conflict, it set up like these secret government organizations and artificial intelligence and cyborgs and all that. Like Skynet would go on to be so much bigger than what it is in this movie. And it's just like, just all these looks into the future inside Kyle Reese's mind, like what he experienced before going back to the past, is really, really good as well. It paints that picture of just how screwed the future is until Sarah Connor came into the picture. It's like, okay, we need to save Sarah Connor, we need to make sure she gives birth to John Connor. So yeah. And otherwise, like I said, I feel like this movie was the best, first time build-up for a trilogy. Which, of course, they had to do that, otherwise, it'd be all for nothing. Ooh, I almost forgot about one other thing. I know it's aged poorly, but let me be honest as well. Whoop, shoot. I'm getting used to this, sorry. This scene where the Terminator just, he got blown up in the, gas truck at the end of the movie, and it's just Kyle and Sarah thinks oh, we killed the Terminator, we saved the future. And the Terminator comes out of the rubble. He has no more of the Arnold skin on him. And it's just this full metallic skeleton body. Let me admit, in that shot alone, in that scene where he just rose up from the flames and fire, I'm like, ooh, now I am invested with this series. Because I never really thought much of the actual Terminator. I never really minded. I thought, yeah, the design is cool, but it was obviously going to be used the hell over for so many rip-offs and spin-offs and sequels and all that. But this shot alone, where it just made me think, this is where it started. This is where the cyborg started, truly and definitely, for a lot of pop culture. And in the shot alone, super amazing. Super... Let me zoom in on this. I honestly like this shot a lot. I really, really do. It's like, it is this menacing force that you think you killed him because you got rid of his human flesh. No. Now you got the nightmare to deal with. And I think that is very, very cool, honestly. That is a very, very cool shot. And, of course, like I said, it didn't age well because, you know, the effects for it, like, I don't know if we call that CGI or not back in the 1980s, but it's like the way it moved around to get inside the factory. I don't know, it was kind of weird. It was these weird shots, these weird 3D shots back then. But still, I liked that this was the only movie before, technically, Salvation, where we actually got to see an actual Terminator. Like, we didn't get to see a human. We didn't just get to see what was underneath the human. We got to see the full cyborg. And that was super cool, honestly. But I wanted to touch on that as well. I really wanted to. But anyway. No, honestly, Terminator 1, yeah, it's kind of, you know, it was 1980s. Of course, it's going to have some bad spots here and there. It's going to have some weak spots and also plotting consistencies. But for me, honestly, it was a great film. And I get that it's far more of a sci-fi action flick, but you can also tell that there was some horror into this as well. There was definitely some horror vibes into it, which I appreciated. I like that it did some bit of horror. Thinking like, oh shit, Sarah Connors are just dying all over the city just to find the actual one to, like, you know, prevent the future from how it is. So yeah, that's how I feel. Terminator 1 just, I absolutely like it. It's not my favorite in the trilogy, not by a long. Well, it's second favorite, but still. Let me just say, it was a great starting film. It had a lot of build-up, and it just had a lot of potential to keep going. And that's what basically happened with Terminator 2, which we're gonna get into now. Hold on, I'm gonna get another drink. Okay. Now, let me preference when I say that I did not know what to expect going into Judgment Day. I did not know, because the first time I watched Terminator 1, I watched the first two films in the same night. And Terminator 1, I'm like, okay, this is cool. But what's Terminator 2 gonna be like? I feel like it's gonna be maybe missing some stuff that made the first movie great. But going into Terminator 2 and then watching it fully, let me just say, oh boy. It took everything that made Terminator 1 good and made it 10 times better. Made it absolutely better. I feel like personally, Terminator 1 just, you know, it was great for being an action flick, but also a horror. Terminator 2 just is full-blown action. We get into the action almost immediately in the first, like, 20 minutes, and it's great. But before we get into that, I want to talk about a few things. One, I will admit, I think one of the things that improved the most with this movie was the characters. I feel like characters were far better in this film. Like, one, I actually like Sarah Connor quite a lot more in this film than in the first movie. Because, okay, here's the other thing I should say. This movie has a major time skip between, like, 1984 to 1991. So that's a 7-year timestamp that we don't know what the hell happened. By the time it's the events of, like, you know, the second movie, John Connor is already a boy, Sarah Connor is in a mental facility, hospital, prison, whatever, and also, apparently now 2 Terminators have been sent to the past. And we don't know which one is either going to find John Connor first, and we don't know what's going to happen to John. We know most likely one of the Terminators is going to be the one that kills him. But then why is there another one? Why do we have Arnold Schwarzenegger this time, which we don't get to see as Schlong, which is great, honestly, thank God. And he had one of the coolest introductory scenes in any movie whatsoever. I need your clothes, your boots, your keys, and your motorcycle. And just, like, proceed to just beat the shit out of the bar patrons. It's so damn cool, honestly. And just, like, the new look that he got. The new look he got in Terminator 2, which looked like in Terminator 1, but just, like, you know, is a lot more cleaner. It looks so cool. No wonder so many people reference him. No wonder, man. He's just... The Terminator is just so cool. Anyway, enough talk about that, because we got enough TL1 to talk about anyway. Anyway... And then it's just like the reveal of another Terminator just coming into the past and just like being able to become another being. Like he killed a police officer under a bridgeway. And it's just like, you know, he took over his looks, his uniform, his voice. That's crazy to me. So, and then we proceed to get to know John Connor, which I will admit. Oh my god. Dang. I will admit, I don't like a lot of kids in movies because they always come off as annoying, lightheaded, and all that, dumb. But John Connor, I feel like, it's kind of the opposite, you know? He's by no means a spoiled runt, and he's by no means a genius because, well, technically he is a genius because he learned from Sarah, her mom, of course. His mom, my god. Oh, my nose is killing me. Anyway. No, I feel like John had a great introductory for me, honestly, because it's like, you know, it shows this kid where it's just like, you know, he has nothing that his mom has, and nothing that, like, you know, is any resemblance of, like, Kyle Reese. Sorry, I blank on his name because he was that forgetful for me, sort of. Oh my god. Anyway, just, I feel like John Connor as a character, he had this interesting setup where it's just like, you know, he just went around and said like, screw you, Todd, you're not my real dad. So, you know, he was a very rebellious kind of kid, but it's like at the same time, he didn't have much. He didn't have much in his life except like, you know, just what his mom taught him, and just like, you know, going around, stealing money, going to the arcades with his buddy. You know, stuff kids would do back then. And then, speaking of his mom, oh boy, I was shocked to see Sarah Connor in that mental facility. Like, what the hell? What is this? Why is she in here? And it's revealed that one of the guys from the first film that, like, you know, interrogated Kyle Reese, he's the one who, like, runs the facility. He's like, oh yeah, we caught this one a few years ago trying to destroy some computers. And he's like, how are you doing today, Sarah? And she's like, doing fine. How's your kneecaps? I'm like, oh shit. Yeah. And we'll get into Sarah Connor a bit more as well, but it's just more importantly with John Connor, the relation between those two. Anyway, let me just say, the movie definitely picked up immediately once it came to the first encounter with the T-1000 and the T-101. That scene where it's just like the T-101 is calling to John saying like, get down, and just starts shooting at the T-1000. I'm like, ooh, okay, so this is the opposite now. Because, to be fair, I did expect the T-1000 was not going to want to protect. I knew he was not going to be there to protect John Connor, so... So honestly, to think about it, in a sense, just like, you know, that first encounter really showed how far this movie was going to go. And that especially showed, yet again, in the first car chase scene. Which was John, like, running down into the sewer lane or whatever. Not the sewer lane, what are those things called? What are those, like, ramps called or whatever? But anyway, it's just him on his motorbike and all that, his makeshift motorbike, and just the T-1000 driving a freaking truck all the way down there and just trying to ram into him. You have the T-101 just, like, trying to follow up on his motorcycle with his Winchester shotgun, and it's so damn cool, honestly. That is, like, one of the peaks for the movie for me, honestly. It's just an overall amazing, cool-ass scene. And it just shows how far this movie is gonna be. Like, this movie, 20 minutes alone. In the first 20 minutes, this movie already showed us who the characters are, what the conflict is like, and what's gonna be happening for the whole rest of the movie. And that's when I truly started to like it. That's when I truly started to like Terminator 2 quite a bit. And I'm just gonna say it now. We are going to be basically talking about the whole story as I remember it, because I do remember quite a bit of it still. But again, there's gonna be discussion about this where it's just like, you know, I talk about certain scenes, certain characters, and certain like encounters that happen. So, but yeah. Ugh, I'm sorry, my mouth is burning up for no reason. It sucks. Anyway, so honestly, I think what followed after that first chase scene and just John Connor meeting the T-101 and just the T-101 explaining like he was sent from the future from John Connor to protect him from the T-1000. And just like, that was a cool setup. And then it's the fact like, you know, the T-1000 just went to go kill John Connor's adoptive parents. And, you know, that gave birth to one of the most overused memes. So, take it for what it is. Anyway. And then it's just like, you know, it's this weird... It just starts this bonding for the T-101 and John Connor, where it's just like... John kind of wants to see the T-101 just be a little bit more human. Which is impossible for a cyborg to do that, in a robot specifically, so... But still, at least he tries. And I think one of the favorite scenes that, like, starts that off is just, like, once the two, like, reach the mental facility hospital, and they have to get past, like, the front door guard, and he's just like, hey, visiting hours are not available right now, come back in the morning, and the T-101 just... No. The scene prior to that, where it's just, like... John is like, you promise not to kill anybody. And the T-101 is like, I promise not to kill anyone. And then he just proceeds to just shoot the legs of that guard. And he's just like, he'll live. The mental facility freaking scene definitely was interesting, to say the least. Because, like, Sarah Connor's just breaking out of there, just beating the shit out of the guards, which they deserved it, honestly, for what they did to her. And just taking the director hostage. Just, like, threatening to poison him, and just, like, you know, almost getting out of there, until the T-101 showed up, and she's like, oh fuck, oh fuck, oh fuck, oh fuck, and then she's like, no, don't take me back, I don't want to go back inside, I don't want to go back to my room. There's the T-101 just coming back, just, like, saving her, protecting her, and all that from the guards, and he's like, come with me if you want to live. And she probably got the worst reminder from 7 years ago, because those were the same words that Kyle Reese told her as well. Come with me if you want to live. So, you know, like, that must have been screwy for her just to hear those lines coming from the machine that tried to kill her a long time ago. So anyway, you know, and then it's just like, you know, the T-1000 shows up, the T-101 just, like, tries to fend it off while Sarah and John runs away and all that. And then it leads into what's honestly maybe the second weakest chase scene, because it didn't last that long. There was no real tension to it, honestly. Like, sure, it was this nice trio attack, which is like, you know, John was reloading Sarah and the Terminator's weapons, and they were just firing off to the T-1000 who was chasing them on foot. But honestly, you know, just, it wasn't much. And then it's just like, you know, for like the next maybe, I want to say like 20 minutes, 30 minutes, nah, more like 20 minutes of the film, we get to see this like opposite bonding between John, Sarah, and the Terminator. Sarah and the Terminator, the only thing that they have in common is that, you know, the Terminator tried to have her killed. No, the Terminator tried to kill her, that's what I meant. The Terminator tried to kill her years ago, and the fact that he's helping her now, try to stop Skynet, that's like, okay, well, you know what? I want to know everything. If you know everything, if you have a supercomputer in your brain right now, I want you to tell me everything you know. I want to know the director's name. I want to know where he lives. Every single detail, down to the color of his shoelaces. But then we get it after that point where it's just like, you know, they were like stopping for a taco, and then they just like ran into Sarah Connor's old buddies back then who like hid a bunch of guns in the desert. And then we just, like, get this duality of just, like, what kind of, you know, bonding John gets to do. Because, like, with Sarah Connor, his mom, there's no bonding whatsoever. Because Sarah, at that point, is just, like, she will literally die for him. Because she said it herself. You cannot put yourself at risk. You have to be alive. If I die, that's fine. But you can't die. And that's all she cares about at that time. Because it's, like, in a sense, yeah, she cares for John, but at the same time, it's just like, you know, she doesn't have any other feeling. She doesn't say another word to him or anything. So, you know, that's a sad thing. It's just like, you know, it's worse that he didn't have a father figure, but it's much worse that he barely had a mother figure that pretty much kind of morphed him into this. Kind of this quiet kid, but also at the same time, you know, just this kid who tried to be a rebel because he hated his mom. And just now trying to connect with her after so long, it's tough. It's so tough because Sarah has had literally nobody to talk to. Nobody would believe her because the day will come that judgment arrives. That Skynet will form, the Terminators will arise, and every human being on the Earth will die. And nobody will believe her. And she cannot get the John, and now that she is with him, it's now to the point of her sake that, you know, she has to protect him. But that still doesn't mean that she couldn't even be a mother, but she can't even be a mother because at this point, she's literally there as a meat shield. But then we get into the Terminator, which is quite interesting because in that time of like 20 minutes of like this bonding, this opposite kind of bonding, we actually get to see the Terminator actually learn from John. Learn to be a little human. Like, you know, just like John teaching him like one-liners and all that, like hasta la vista, baby, and like so long, dickhead. That scene was pretty funny, honestly. Like, honestly, any scene with the Terminator and John, like with the two of them just like talking or doing stuff, is always fun to watch. It's always funny, but it's also good as well. But then it's like the scene where it's just like, you know, he was trying to teach the Terminator how to do a high five. And he's just like, down low, too slow. And the Terminator just gave him this cold stare like, what the hell, man? I cannot compute too slow. Funny stuff, honestly, man. Funny stuff. But yeah, then it also leads into the second biggest meme that came out of this movie, which was basically, you know, when Judgment Day did show up and blew up the entire world. And it's just like, you know, you all know the meme. You all know, it's just like, it's like the bomb goes off, the guy's screaming like, what the fuck? And just gets cut off by a giant like scream into a cynical laugh and all that. You know, you all know what meme that is. We all know what that meme is. We've all been around to see that meme at least once in our lives. You can't tell me otherwise. Anyway, just to find out that was a dream, which made more sense. It was Sarah's dream. Made obvious sense. Still dark though. Pretty deep, pretty dark. And then it's just like, you know, I can't remember at the top of my head what the director's name, like, okay, it's the guy that basically started up Skynet. What was his name? I don't remember his name because, let me be honest, he was also he wasn't a weak point of the movie for me. I thought he was good, but, you know, because he only had like maybe 20 minutes of screen time, it didn't really matter. What was his name? Let me look. Miles Bennett. Yeah, Miles Bennett. Yeah. Because in another take of this video, I said Joe Morton, and Joe Morton is actually the actor. No, Miles Bennett, the guy that basically started Skynet, because he's also the guy that was able to scavenge the remains of the first Terminator that showed up in 1984. You know, the one that Sarah Connor smashed to death. But still, he had an arm and apparently a chip that survived or something like that, so, you know, he kept that in storage and secret from the whole world. So yeah. But it's like, you know, that scene was pretty sad, honestly, because, you know, the man didn't know what he was getting himself into. The man did not know he was about to cause the whole world to go into a nuclear fallout without the bunkers. And it's just like, you know, just that whole talk from the Terminator, even though we don't get to hear much of it, just like how Sarah Connor, like, monologues that. Ooh. That is so good. It's great, honestly. But even before that, let me say, like I said, every movie has at least one disturbing scene with the Terminator, and with this movie, it is no different. Literally, once the Terminator shows his actual metallic arm, like, he rips the skin off his arm. And he shows it. He shows the bloody metallic arm of his skeletal machine body to the director of Skynet, to the original creator. And I'm just like, now I just feel like throwing up thinking about that now. God dang it. I feel like throwing up because of that. God dang it. Oh, man. But yeah. And then, you know, of course, that led into the whole, like, destruction of, you know, the Terminator arm and also the chip that basically would start Skynet, that would, like, get it going all across the world. And then, of course, also led into a pretty cool shootout as well. And it's just like, I still look back at the scene where John's like, wait, you promised not to kill anybody. And the Terminator just, like, gives a smirk back to John and, like, relax, I got this. And it just, like, goes out, just, like, stands off against, like, 100 different police officers in their vehicles and all that, like, behind their cars. And it's just the Terminator just shooting down all those cop cars and making them explode and stuff. And just freaking... Oh, man. And the fact that he had not a single person killed, let alone anybody injured, was insane, honestly. Because considering he had A, a minigun, and B, a grenade launcher, that's crazy. That's crazy that he actually was able to do that without taking a single life. Because when you think about it, outside of, like, hurting, you know, the two dudes that, like, he basically beat the shit out of at the start of the movie, and then the guard that he shot the legs into with his gun, he didn't really kill anybody. He didn't really. Oh boy. Sorry, I'm getting a little lightheaded here. been a while since I talked this long, but anyway. Just like, no, that shootout was pretty cool. And then just, you know, I like the scene where the Terminator is just going outside after they were, like, throwing tear gas at the building and all that, trying to rat them out. And then it's just like, you know, he just gets to the SWAT car and he gets to the two guys in masks and he's like, here, hold this. He hands them the grenade launcher, takes off his mask and just doink. Funny stuff, honestly. Pretty funny stuff. And then, I did not expect the T-1000 of all things, of all people, of all creations, to go up a flight of stairs on a police motorcycle and then proceed to drive out of the top building into a helicopter just to take control of that helicopter and to tell the pilot, get out. A throwback as well to Terminator 1 as well, but still. I just like, wow. This T-1000, man. This T-1000 is insane. And you probably have noticed now that I have not talked too much about the T-1000. And that's because just the T-1000, unlike the T-101, actually does not have that much lines. He has like maybe 10 lines at best throughout the whole movie. And most of that comes from the beginning, where he's trying to look for John Connor, asking people around. And then at the end, where he's constantly asking Sarah, call for John. Anyway, we're not there yet, but anyway. What else? What else about that scene I liked? The chase scene. The chase scene was good, but again, I hate to harpen back again to Terminator 1, but let me just say, it still had the best car chase scenes in the entire trilogy. There was just a more fearful adrenaline to it compared to this, because it's like, even though the T-101 was getting damaged pretty badly, and Sarah Connor also took like a bullet to the leg as well, it's like, you know, I knew it couldn't end like that. It could not end on a highway chase scene. It could not. Because it also had to repeat Terminator 1 again and end in another factory. But this time, it's special, because it's got lava. Anyway, no. I think personally, actually, while I'm talking, I need to look up a picture. The final fight definitely was interesting, like, just the T-1000 getting freaking, what is it? Just like cryogenically, I'm not gonna find that picture, cryogenically frozen, and the Terminator shoots him with the pistol, and he's just like, he just shatters all around, but then he just builds himself back up. Pretty cool stuff, honestly. And then it's just that fight, like, I was thinking the T-101 would still stand a chance, but nah, he got his ass whooped hard. Which makes sense, obviously. I mean, like, not only because, like, you know, he was kind of damaged beforehand, but more importantly, it's just like, the T-1000 was meant to be better than the T-101 in every kind of way, in every stat. In strength, speed, like, intelligence, like, all that stuff. He was meant to be the superior version of the Terminator. Which showed, obviously, which quite showed, because it's like, they had to fight twice in that same scene. And it's like, both times the T-101 got his ass whooped, to the point that he literally, I thought he actually died. Like, as soon as he got that pipe, like, shoved through his chest, I'm just like, yeah, that's gotta be it. That T-101 is not coming back. And then it's just like, you know, Sarah Connor just, like, blowing the heck out of it with a full auto shotgun. Pretty damn cool. And I just love the scene where the T-1000 is just like, when she runs out of bullets and he's just about to go over the edge of the lava pool, and he's just like... Great stuff, honestly. Great stuff. And then, of course, you know, the T-101 shows back up with this cool-ass grenade launcher, shoots the T-1000, he jumps into the lava pool, and we do get another disturbing scene where it's like, we see all the faces that the T-1000 disguised as, all throughout the movie. Like, he disguised as John Connor's adoptive mother, he disguised as guards and police officers, and even Sarah Connor as well. It's like, you know, it was kind of a... You know, it was kind of a badass way to go out, even though, you know, this villain had literally barely any lines, but I think that's what I like about the T-1000. The T-1000, I feel like, is good as a villain because he didn't need that much lines. He didn't need to be like the T-101 from 1984. But at the same time, he had enough to basically run him as his own kind of good villain. And also, of course, the CGI, it was 1991, so, you know, stuff was probably still being worked on. It's just like, the fact that he was a liquid metal body was pretty cool as well. Was super pretty cool. Oh, and just like, being able to morph himself into blades and all that, and just being able to, like, heal his wounds just because, like, oh, you put a bullet in me? Well, guess what? I'm gonna heal. Yeah. But, of course, he was not going to recover that much from a grenade launcher. Not really. I would not think a Terminator could survive a grenade launcher. Well, maybe. They'd probably lose their skin, though. I would just say that. They might lose their skin. But yeah. And then it's just like, the trio, like, drops the original Terminator arm and the chip into the lava pool, and then it leads into the T-101 of that time, just saying, like, not yet, it's not over, there's still one last thing that it has to be destroyed, and that's the chip in my head. And to do that, I have to destroy myself. And just like John, just trying to order him around, because I failed to mention this as well, but it's like, I mentioned before that the T-101 was reprogrammed. I probably might not have. Was reprogrammed to protect John Connor in the past, because the John Connor of the future reprogrammed the Terminator to go back in the past and protect him. But at the same time, disappeared from the rest of the movie, because, like, John's friend disappeared after like 20 minutes into the film, after the T-1000 started chasing after him in the mall. And then the director of the mental facility also disappeared because, he didn't die, but still, it's like, what else were you gonna do with him? So honestly, it's just like, and I feel like that is also a trend as well with the Terminator series at this point. At the point of Terminator 2, where it's like, you can't hold on to a lot of characters. You really, really can't, because it's like, in Terminator 1, the kill count in that movie was super huge, like, much bigger than here. and even Terminator 3, not counting the fact that Judgment Day happened in that movie. But still, it's like, even characters that were there for like maybe a short amount of time, you can't keep them forever, unless you actually make them important. Unless they actually have some way of protecting or like, advancing the plot or trying to help the Connors family. Or you're a Terminator for that matter. But even then, all Terminators die one way or another. But anyway. No, and I just feel like with this movie, it just does everything that I liked about Terminator 1 and some of the stuff I didn't like about it, and like completely made it all better in every sense. Like, everything felt better about this movie. The direction of this movie, the pacing of this movie. Chase scenes, I will admit, were not my favorite parts of it. Not by a long shot. They weren't in my top 3 favorite. But, the first one was really good, and even the last one as well. But still, I still like Terminator 1 chase scenes a lot more. But the characters, I so far like them much, much more than the first film. I especially like John Connor, because of the role that he gets in this film, especially getting to bond with the T-101. And Sarah Connor definitely takes on a different and very interesting new approach, unlike, her casual self, who was just kind of strung into this whole event because, she bared the future. Now she doesn't, but at the same time, she's about as much as a lunatic as Kyle Reese was in the first film. It's almost that weird comparison. But anyway. And also, I failed to mention this as well, but music I felt like got a lot better in this film too, especially with the main theme. Like, music all around it, it kept the beat of this movie. The impact was so good all the way through. And the Terminator, like I said, any scene that he is in, it is the best. Whether he is bonding with John Connor, or fighting the T-1000, or even in the opening scene, any scene that the Terminator is in, it's absolutely amazing. It is a treat to watch Arnold Schwarzenegger just be in this movie, and just reprising his role, and this time actually, in a sense, being a good guy. A good cyborg. A good Terminator. Anyway, like I said, Terminator 2, I love this film. It is my favorite movie out of the entire trilogy by a long shot, and I will continue to watch this movie over and over again and continue to rave about this movie. And I also recommend you all to definitely check out this movie. There's reasons why this movie is still referenced even today. You ever wonder where one-liners like, "I'll be back," well actually that's Terminator 1, but "Hasta la vista, baby," that came from this movie. And to think about the memes like, "Your foster parents are dead," and even the Judgment Day scene got turned into decade-old memes. Well, it's this movie that brought all that, and much, much more. It is absolutely what I want from a movie, because it has the right amount of action, good amount of characters, and just has a very, very intense theme to it, but it's so satisfying to watch. It's just non-stop action, but it has a great story to it. And it's just what I look for in a movie. Which leads me into Rise of the Machines, Terminator 3, which I preference yet again that going into this film, I was worried from the very beginning I started watching this trilogy that by the time of the third movie, this trilogy was going to lose some steam. It was going to lose what it was going to be. And there's already one red flag because I actually looked this up after watching Terminator 3 because I did not see one specific name in that credits, and that was James Cameron. And just to catch up people on speed, James Cameron was the one that directed the first 2 Terminator films. I don't know who directed Terminator 3. It was 2 other guys. And to be completely honest, Rise of the Machines, I just felt like it was going to be too hard to bank on Judgment Day. It was going to be way too hard to make another sequel like Terminator 2. It was going to be difficult. And I wanted to be wrong. For once in my life, I wanted to be wrong. More wrong than what I've been about other stuff. More wrong than being about Guilty Gear Strive and its mechanics. More wrong about other series and just sequels and all that I get into. I wanted to be wrong with Terminator 3. I really wanted to. And that didn't happen. Going into the movie, I tried to keep my expectations low. I tried not to think too much about Judgment Day or the first movie. And unfortunately, that's all I was just thinking about the entire time of watching Rise of the Machines. To, I guess, lay out some good stuff about the film, which isn't much. I will admit, the first car chase scene in the film, where it's just like the TX, and the TX is like chasing John Connor, and what was her name? Kate? I forgot her last name. It's just like chasing them down on the road, and it's like she's in a giant like septic tank or whatever, some kind of truck, and the Terminator is just like, you know, holding on a pole or something, trying to chase after them and all that. That was a very weird scene, but I also felt like that was the tone shift of the movie, where like it was going to be this chaotic. Like Terminator 2 was mad pack action, but this is just chaotic. This is to the point where it's like, is this even normal for a Terminator to do? Like, seriously. Anyway, I also did like the opening scene with the T-101, you know, because he did his own shtickler. You know, he went into a bar, he stole some clothes from a dude, he got back on another motorcycle, you know, same old, just didn't have Bad to the Bone this time. I don't even remember if it had a song or not. Anyway, trying to think what else. I don't know. Oh god, this is tough. This is the problem I have with the film. It's like, I'm not saying this film is terrible by any means, it's just, it tries so hard to be like Terminator 2 and even Terminator 1 as well. I want to give I at least want to give some credit for the actress of the TX. I at least want to. Because, you know, she played the looks, and she played the part quite well for being a deadly cyborg, just like the T-1000, but I feel like at the same time the TX was trying to go for more of a feel of just like the T-1000, and I didn't catch on to that. It also did not help that she had way less lines compared to the T-1000. Like, I'm pretty sure she only talked for like the first hour of the film, and only 5 lines in those 5 hours. Just 5 lines. So, that did not help me, and it did not help me as well that it was basically the same scenario yet again. She is a much superior version of the T-101, and she could probably even be better than the T-1000. It's like, oh boy, it's just a much stronger one that's gonna end up dying, possibly again. Anyway, trying to think what else I truly liked about this film. I guess I'll give the ending credits. The ending was quite interesting because it ended on this sort of cliffhanger, but it's like, we don't exactly know, because it's like, okay, I like the ending of it, but I also do not like what it basically did for the whole trilogy. So what I liked about it was that it was basically this startup into like how Judgment Day would appear and how John Connor would actually fully lead the Resistance. I fully liked that. I fully did like that, because like it was basically that startup, because like it was only him and Kate, and they were the survivors in that bunker, even though there were other survivors around the world. But it's like, as Judgment Day was happening, billions of lives were dying because of the nuclear bombs. So it came to that point where it's like, you know, it's interesting to wonder what happens next. My only problem is that I understand that, yes, all of these movies have been building up for John Connor to basically become, you know, the leader of the Resistance, the man that gives humanity a fighting chance in 2029. But my problem is, looking back at it, we already had 2 amazing films that already felt like it kind of changed the course of time, and it didn't change. But I will give it the credit of doubt, because the one thing that really screwed it over was the fact that Skynet was still activated. The moment Skynet was activated, yeah, it was basically history repeating itself, and there was no stopping it. So, you know, I want to give it that much credit, because Skynet basically screwed over this trilogy for me, honestly. And I like Skynet for that, honestly, but I do not like how basically, like, it basically said, like, oh yeah, everything that happened in the first 2 movies don't matter. It's almost like it was intended. It was intended for the first Terminator in 1984 to just die. And then it was intended for the T-1000 to die 7 years later. And just then for the other T-101, who was reprogrammed, to die as well. And John Connor to still live on. Like, I honestly, I don't know, that felt like a waste, honestly. It's kind of like a sour taste for me, honestly, for a trilogy, for an ending trilogy like this, to go into another one now. And that's really all the positives I have for this film. That's all I really got. Because now I basically get into my negatives. For one, John Connor is much worse in this movie. I can't think of a single scene I actually liked him in. I actually don't. I do not like him as he is. Like, I didn't like at the beginning where it's like he basically said what happened after the night that the T-101 like passed on after killing the T-1000 and preventing Judgment Day. I did not like that he basically monologued that in the first minute of the film, because again, Terminator 3 does the same thing like Terminator 2 did, and basically skipped times, because remember, Terminator 3 came out, what was it? 12 years later, 2003? Yeah, 2003. And honestly, just, I don't know. I feel like, honestly, just, that's a much longer time, like 12 years, like 7 years is long, but over a decade of missing stuff, like what the hell happened afterwards, just, that's a long time skipped, honestly. That's like a weird timeline to jump from. But anyway, God, yeah, again, I can't say anything nice about John Connor. I don't think he was treated well, honestly. Like, I get it, it's like, yeah, Sarah Connor died, his mom died of leukemia, and he basically had nobody to trust. He was on the run every minute of his life because he had no home, he had nobody to talk to, he trusted nobody, and it's like, he basically got away from his future, being the future leader of the Resistance, but it wasn't really shown until the end. It really wasn't. Literally wasn't. And then also the brand new character, Kate, who is basically a plot device. Let me be real, she is a plot device. I'm sorry. You can't tell me one good thing about her, because all she did for a good majority of the film was just scream at the T-101, scream at John Connor, tell them to piss off like 5 times in a row, and then just basically call for her daddy. Because her dad was basically the one that basically activated Skynet. But still, it's like, she didn't do much. It didn't even impress me when she actually pulled up a gun and just started shooting down some Skynet-controlled robots. Didn't even impress me that much. God, I'm just like, it's tough to really think of anything good for these characters. And it's really tough as well because, you know, sometimes they're just plot devices and sometimes they're just butchered from the last film. I guess I need to talk about the T-101. The T-101, honestly, is just... Okay, I don't want to discredit Arnold, and I'm not discrediting him at all. I think he still does great in this film, but he's this weird... He's like this weird bootleg of the Judgment Day Terminator. He feels weird, like... He's got that weird kind of like personality... Well, personality... He's basically the Terminator, but it's like, he basically can't learn anything that John taught the last one, like, 12 years ago. He can't do that. It sucks, honestly. And yet, at the same time, he kind of has... This Terminator has more sass. This Terminator actually has way more sass than I remember, actually. Much more sass than the last one. And it's just like, where is this coming from? How did he know this stuff? Did he go back in time and actually talk with the younger John Connor or something like that? I don't know, but... I don't know, it felt weird in this film, like, conversational-wise, like, character-wise. And it did not help as well that it's just like, you know, at the near end of the film, he had this weird consciousness, where it's just like, you know, he was, like, apparently, like, after he bolted his head back in, he got this weird reprogram of, like, to go back and kill John Connor, but then he decides not to, and just goes into, like, lock stasis for a couple hours, until he decides to sacrifice himself to kill the TX, to save John Connor and Kate and all that. Like, I don't know. That was a very weird scene for me, and at first I thought I was impressed, but then I remember and I'm just like, no, that was a bad scene. And then it also did not help with his action scenes at all. It did not help with his action scenes. Because let me be honest, the first 2 Terminators, they were non-stop monsters. These were non-stop cyborgs that were just like, they could basically take anything, even Terminator's better than them. This one, it just felt like a joke. This one felt like he was a punching bag more than a puncher. Because, like, anytime it was the TX basically shoved him back into the wall, and that's it. He was down for the count. He was out for like 5 minutes before he came back on screen. And I will give credit, I thought it was pretty disturbing to see the Terminator's, like, spinal cord just come out of his head, like his head popped out, like a rock'em soccer robot. I thought that was pretty cool, but then the fact he just popped it right back in was... that's when I started losing more interest with the film. That was at the near end, by the way. I was already losing interest. Ugh, God. So yeah, honestly, just... there wasn't much. There's not much. And the TX, like I said, the TX is not that interesting. It tries so hard to be the T-1000, but a woman, which I will give it credit for. It's something different, but when it is basically another better version of the T-101 in every way, and it's just basically the T-1000 but a woman, there's literally no difference. There really isn't. So that's my real complaint with it. And also the fact that, you know, she gets no lines hardly at all. And again, that's not discrediting the actress. That's discrediting the script and the screenwriters. I can't think of anything else. I can't think of anything else, honestly, because this movie... I watched this movie fully, don't get me wrong. I wanted to see how this trilogy ended, but it's like... I'd rather be more interested in just seeing the garbage fires that came after this than actually rewatching it. And it's just hard to think that. I will say, just Terminator 3 just felt so bad in a sense that it wasn't even good. Like I said, there are some good scenes, but the action and the characters and just the buildup of all of it, the pace of it, that's the other thing I did not like. Sometimes this movie literally went at a snail's pace. We had characters doing absolutely nothing for like 20 minutes. Absolutely nothing. No bonding but failed. And then also just like arguing and telling each other to piss off and all of that and saying like, no, we gotta go. No, we're not. Okay, we're going. It's like, it's so bad. And then sometimes scenes will just go by way so fast. And again, like I said, this movie tries way so hard to be Terminator 2, but also tries to be Terminator 1 because it does the same thing where it's like, you know, the TX goes around killing different people that are like the future lieutenants of John Connor. And I feel like, yeah, that's cool, but there's nothing to it. The TX just went around killing different people, and I get it, they become important, but it's like, preference that a little bit more. And that did not help, and the fact that it only went on for like 5 minutes tops at the beginning of the film, or maybe just a little later, like, no, that did not help. That did not make me care any more about characters at all, not even the TX. Because it basically did the same thing like the first Terminator did in 1984. And he just wanted to kill Sarah Connor. And he only ended up killing 2 different wrong Sarah Connors. And then I guess also, of course, you know, a lot of people got in his way as well. The police department got in his way, and other people did as well. But it's like, again, just that part alone just felt like it tried way too hard to be Terminator 1. But it definitely failed to try to live up to Terminator 2. It tried to be with all these references and all these, like, cool scenes that try to be funny or cool and all that Terminator 2 did. Like, you know, John Connor trying to bond with another Terminator, trying to, like, make him human and all that, and it fails. It's like, I don't know. It just does not work. It doesn't work at all. So, yeah. And again, I went into this film with low expectations, with low hopes, because I knew after Judgment Day, yeah, this trilogy was about to lose its steam. And basically what came after it, like, in the coming decade. So yeah. That's all I really think about Rise of the Machines. It is a poor movie that is a poor imitation of 2 prior great films. That's all it is. I'm not gonna say it's a terrible movie. I'm not gonna say it's the worst movie in the entire franchise, because it's far from it. It at least still tries to be a Terminator film, but it's like, at the time of its release... And the fact that it wasn't James Cameron, and the fact that 2 guys just changed up the entire series, like, I won't say they, like, retcon stuff and all that, but they basically told us in the movie, yeah, everything that happened in the first 2 films, yeah, we're not gonna give a shit about that. We're still gonna make Judgment Day happen, so, you know, it's tough. It's rough, honestly, so... Anyway. So yeah, I guess to finalize, to go back and talk about each film very briefly, Terminator 1 had an amazing build-up, had my favorite car chase scenes in the entire trilogy, and really, again, it's just a very great movie. And again, like I said, I think that one of the coolest scenes that I've seen in an action movie is definitely this. Definitely the scene with the Terminator fully showing his skeletal cyborg body. Absolutely amazing. I kind of wish we got that in the later films. Like, I'm not talking Salvation, all that. I'm talking, like, getting more reveal like that. Because that was absolutely scary and cool at the same time. Anyway, Terminator 2 was the film that took everything that the first movie did right and wrong and basically made it all better by 10 times more. Everything about the story, about the characters, the action. Car chase scenes were a little weak, though. I will say that. I didn't like all the chase scenes. But just like, everything Terminator 2 did just was absolutely amazing and has become one of my favorite movies as of recent years. Because, like, I've talked movies like Redline and all that, but, like, Terminator 2 is just that movie where it is non-stop action, and it's in the good kind of action. It never overblows on that site. And that's great. But then Terminator 3, I went in with low expectations, low hopes, and it was just a pale imitation of just trying to be the first two movies, and it falls flat on its ass every inch of the way. But again, I will give it credit. It has an interesting finale that I felt like, could have gone in a lot of directions. But then, we all know what we got next, so yeah. That's what I think of the original Terminator trilogy, from 1 to 3. Honestly, it's been one of the greatest experiences I've had all year so far. It's like, I've had some other experiences as well, like the play performance and all that, but like, getting to watch a full brand new trilogy I've never watched before was absolutely satisfying. It was, yeah. I do plan to, and this is loosely though, I do loosely plan to watch the modern Terminator films like Salvation and Dark Fate. I've seen the reviews of Genesis, and it's possibly the worst movie in the entire franchise, so I might skip that, but a friend told me that it's so bad it's good, and I have a bad feeling about that, honestly, because it's like, I don't know what, because like, I kind of know what to expect after Terminator 3, but it's like, I want to hope it's not as bad as I think it is. But if it is, well, pray me well, very well, that I recover. I do have good hopes about Dark Fate, though, once I do watch that, because, I guess it's that weird in-between between the 3 films or something, so I want to give that a shot at least, but I at least want to give Salvation a shot. Because like I said, Salvation was that movie everybody talked about back in the early 2000s. Nobody would shut up about it until it came out. So yeah. And honestly, I think that is going to wrap it up for this review. So yeah, honestly, go watch this trilogy. I do recommend Terminator 3, even though it is a poor imitation of the first 2 films, but honestly, it's just not the same without watching, just the first 2 films and then just being like, okay, I'm done. No, honestly, I would just say give the third movie a watch, just out of curiosity, even though I basically said this movie is a poor imitation. It at least tries. It at least tries to do something, but it just doesn't work. But anyway, that's basically going to be all from me. I want to thank you all for watching this. Actually, I'm curious if you all have seen the Terminator trilogy, or even the franchise in its whole, or even just, like, watch the other movies and all that. There was also apparently a TV show based around, like, I don't know, Sarah Connor after the first film or something, so let me know if any of you have seen that. I'm gonna probably just skip on that because I care more for the movies than just, like, outside medias and all that. Like I said, like, I was never the biggest fan of Terminator, because, like, yeah, it was cool to see him in Mortal Kombat 11, but then, that, oof. That turned into a controversy right there, just because of the fact of how he looked. And then well, not a controversy, but anyway. And then it's just like, I just didn't know the Terminator that well. I never watched the movies until now, but I am actually happy to have finally watched it, so yeah. I recommend it, I do recommend every one of you to go watch it. It's just an action-thrilled adventure. It is a thrill ride that is just like, it is satisfying all the way through, except for the third movie. And let me all know what you think about Terminator, honestly. If you're a fan of him or not, if you're a fan of his movies, or just like anything particular about the Terminator you like, so. And yeah. And like I said, I'm back officially. This is my first video back for the summer. And like I said, my next video, I am planning either talking about the Guilty Gear Strive beta test that happened last weekend. Yeah, that might come next. That might actually come next. I have that in the pipe work right now. I might start working on that soon after this. And then I also have another video that I'm having a friend edit for me right now, and as soon as that's done, I'm gonna post that too. I'm not gonna spoil it though. It's quite a fun video, honestly. But yeah, so that's basically all I got. Thank you all again for watching. This is Ryan Bowman, aka Limoto, and I will see you all later. Until then, peace out, baby.